Brandon Miller just stunned Emmanuel Wanyonyi in London. Emmanuel Wanyonyi walked into London just days after breaking a world record that stood for 27 years. Every fan expected him to win. But Brandon Miller had a different plan, a training partner nobody expected, and one kick that changed everything in seconds. What happened next stunned the entire stadium. Let's go back to what happened right before this race, because that's where the real story begins. At the Monaco Diamond League, Emmanuel Wanyonyi stepped onto the track for his very first 1,000-meter race ever. This wasn't even his main event. Wanyonyi is an 800-meter runner. He's the reigning Olympic champion. He's the reigning world champion. He's the second fastest man in history over that distance. But on that night, he decided to chase a record that had stood since 1999. Kenyan legend Noah Ngini ran 2:11, 96 in the 1,000 meters almost 30 years earlier, and nobody had come close since. Wanyonyi lined up next to Britain's Jake Whiteman, and the pacemakers took the field through the first 800 meters right on world record schedule. With 150 meters left, Wanyonyi was actually behind the pace. Then he found another gear, caught the light, and crossed the line in 2:11.83. He broke the world record on his very first attempt at the distance, taking it away from a mark that had survived since before most fans watching were even born. That performance made headlines across the sport. Fans and experts called him unstoppable. He was already tied for second all-time in the 800 meters, sitting just behind legendary runner David Rudisha. Now he had a world record in a brand new event too. Every conversation in track and field that week was about how far Wanyonyi could go this season and whether Rudisha's 800-meter record might be the next one to fall. Soon after, he showed up in London for the Diamond League meet at the Olympic Stadium, still riding that wave of momentum. The men's 800 meters lined up, and Wanyonyi was the clear favorite. Standing across from him was Brandon Miller, a runner from St. Louis, Missouri. Miller's story looks nothing like Wanyonyi's. He didn't walk into this season as a household name. He missed an entire indoor season with an injury nobody talked much about. During that stretch, a young runner named Cooper Lutkenhaus rose to the top and looked like the best 800-meter runner in the country. Miller sat on the outside looking in, watching someone else get the attention that used to point his way. But something shifted for Miller heading into the summer. He moved to train alongside two-time Olympic medalist Josh Kerr at the Brooks Beasts Club in Albuquerque, under coach Danny Mackey. Training at high altitude with one of the smartest racers in the sport rubbed off on him fast. Miller has said Kerr taught him how to actually race, not just run fast. That difference between running fast and racing smart turned out to matter a lot in London. The results showed up quickly. Miller won at the LA Track Festival, spoiling a showdown fans wanted between Kerr and Jake Whiteman. Then he won again. Then, at the Prefontaine Classic, he beat that same rising star, Cooper Lutkenhaus, ending his unbeaten streak. Lutkenhaus came out afterward and said Miller was on a different level. That kind of praise from a rival carries weight, especially from someone who had been the story of the season up to that point. By the time London arrived, Miller was quietly riding a 3-race winning streak. Nobody was talking about him the way they talked about Wanyonyi. But he was building something real, one race at a time, and it was about to peak at the biggest moment of his season. Years earlier, as a young kid, Miller had already set national age group records in the 800 and 1500. The talent had always been there, it just needed the right push to fully show up. Now, let's get into the race itself. The gun went off, and the field settled into position. Wanyonyi ran his usual style, sitting near the front and controlling the pace the way he always does. That front-running style had carried him to Olympic gold and world gold before, so nobody questioned it. Britain's Max Burgin, fresh off his own Diamond League win in Rabat, stayed close behind. Ireland's Mark English was in the mix too, a name few expected to factor into the finish. Coming off the final bend, Miller tracked Wanyonyi and Burgin, sitting just behind them and waiting for his moment. This is where Kerr's coaching showed up. Miller didn't panic. He didn't make his move too early. He waited for the exact right second, then exploded off the curve. Wanyonyi and Burgin had no answer. Miller flew past them down the home straight, and by the time he crossed the line, the race was already decided. His time read 1:42.19, a personal best by almost a full second. His previous best stood at 1:43.14. That's a massive jump for a professional 800-meter runner competing at this level, the kind of improvement that usually takes years, not one single race. Mark English crossed second, also running a personal best of 1:42.97, his first time ever breaking 1:43 in his career. Burgin held on for third place in 1:43.30, denying the home crowd a home winner, but still giving them a personal best to cheer for. And Wanyonyi, the man who had broken a world record just days earlier, crossed the line in fourth place, clocking 1:43.31. He didn't just lose the race, he missed the podium completely, something that almost never happens to him on this stage. After the race, Mark English captured the moment perfectly. He said he was just happy to beat Wanyonyi and that it felt amazing to finally join the sub-1:43 club. Miller had his own line for reporters too, saying he was now in the 1:42 club, a phrase that spread quickly across track and field media within hours of the finish stop. And think about how strange this result really is. Wanyonyi is the Olympic champion. He's the world champion. He owns a personal best of 1:41.11 in the 800 meters, faster than anyone in history except David Rudisha. Just days earlier, he had rewritten a record book entry that stood since before he was even born. In London, he finished fourth. This wasn't a case of Wanyonyi running poorly either. His time of 1:43.31 would have won plenty of Diamond League races held this season. The field around him was simply loaded. 4 different runners broke 1:43.35 that day in London. That number alone shows how deep the competition has become in the men's 800 meters right now, and how little room there is for even a small mistake at the top level. For Miller, this win moves him to 5th on the all-time list among American runners in this event. He earned it by beating not just Wanyonyi, but a stacked field that included a Rabat Diamond League winner and a runner who had never broken 1:43 in his life before that exact race. What makes this result even more interesting is the timing around it. This came during a season where American men have dominated middle distance running across the Diamond League circuit. Between Miller, Lutkenhaus, and other rising American stars, this has already turned into one of the strongest years in history for the United States in these events. Miller's win in London adds another chapter to that run, and it puts his name firmly in that conversation alongside runners who were already household names before this season began. For Wanyonyi, this result raises real questions about the rest of his season. He remains the man to beat on paper. His resume still speaks for itself, built on an Olympic title, a world title, and now a world record in a second event. But this loss shows his margin over the rest of the field isn't as wide as the Monaco headlines made it appear. Wanyonyi will want to respond, and given everything he has already accomplished, nobody should count him out. He has bounced back from setbacks before and turned them into fuel for even bigger performances. But Brandon Miller just showed the entire sport that the king of the 800 meters can be beaten. He did it just days after. That king looked more untouchable than he had ever looked before. This race will likely be remembered as one of the biggest upsets of the season, arriving at the exact moment nobody expected it to happen, and setting up a fascinating rematch the next time these two men share a start line.